And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at the MS Batory. This is a game that when I saw it at Essen last year, I was very attracted because of two main reasons. One, it has a three-dimensional ship. Hang on, we're going to take a look at that one really soon. And two, it's a deduction game, one of my favorite genres. And, well, three, I guess Granna makes a lot of really fun games. So, does it meet these expectations? Let's look. So you build this 3D ship. Let me see if I can bend it a little bit so you can see it without any of the characters falling off. Whoops, there they go. This is the Titanic. Each character is going to be randomly placed on one of these starting positions. There are 12 figures, but there are actually 13 characters because the captain has two characters. It's the captain and the parrots. They're together. So you're trying to figure out which of the 13 people is the guilty party. You will do that by drawing one of these cards and without looking at it and putting it underneath the board. The rest are handed out to everyone else, and they're going to try to use those to figure out who is the thief. So each player is going to be dealt the rest of these cards, and you're going to be using your own sheet, and you also have a shield to protect you, and it also, the shield shows you each of the characters. Each character is either a crew member or they're a guest on the ship. They are male or female, and then they are either old, middle-aged, or young. That's pretty much it, and even the parrot's included in that. So you're going to be using those stats to figure it out, and you have the sheet to write down different information. Players are going to start the game with 2 question cards, and you're going to be using these cards to ask people questions. There's also a deck of event cards. One of these is placed face up. On your turn, you are going to move characters 0 to 4 spaces. So I can move her, for example, 1, 2, moving through doorways. If you're on a stair area, it could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can move up and down stairs into different rooms. If you move someone into the room, so first in this says each visit to a dining room or social room. If you move someone to a dining room or a social room, then you get to draw another question card. So you can draw one of these or draw the top one from the deck into your hand. Then you ask someone a question. You can ask anyone a question except for the person who just asked you a question. Because when you ask someone a question, it's their turn. You use a card to ask someone a question. If you use a card with a red line on it, the event will change, which means different ways you move people will get you question cards. If you don't have any question cards for whatever reason, then you'll draw the top card of the deck and do whatever that is. But you have to ask someone a yes or no question about this. So I might say, do you have 4 or more old people? Or I might say, do you have more old people than you have young people? Whatever you ask, it has to do with age, and it has to be a yes or no question. I can combine two of them and be like, do you have more old men than young women? Or whatever I might want to ask. So you can ask any question you want. You'll be using this sheet to mark that down. The questions must be yes or no. Unless you have a number card, you can combine that card with another. You can never use it by itself. I can say, do you have more than 3 old people? And then, or I can say, how many old people do you have, I guess, and I get the number question there. And then I'll have to say an exact answer. But remember, when you use 2 question cards, you only ever get to draw 1, so you're going to run out of cards if you continue to do that when you use double cards. This will continue on. You're just going to be moving things around, asking questions until someone figures out what it is. They mark it down in their sheet. They announce it anytime during the game. They look at it. If they're correct, I said it was a shop assistant, I'm correct, you win. Otherwise, you're out of the game, except you still have to answer people's questions. That's pretty much it. Now this 3D ship is going to have people stop by your table and look at it. Unfortunately, this ship is a bit of a detriment because even when you're looking at it from the side, here I'm looking from the side, but if let's say I'm sitting on this corner, these big pillars in the middle are going to block your view of where people are. And so you're constantly going to have to like squinting and looking around, which is going to give people an idea of who you're asking about. The ship itself fits together okay, although these front pieces pop off really easily, and the whole thing is a little bit of a bear to put together. Fortunately, there is some detailed instructions in the rules, but it does take a bit to put the ship together at the beginning of the game. Card quality is, well, okay. Not great card quality, unfortunately. They're going to get beat up pretty easily. And these cards themselves, the event cards, You only need to know this black text. The rest of it is all fluff. The characters themselves are fine. I like them. And I should also mention that each deck of the ship has English on one side and Polish on the other side. So there's going to be different sides to that. But the sheets are really nice too, and there's a lot of them, and they're in full color. So it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to components. In some ways, the game has kind of the same level as Clue or Cluedo, where you go through and you're just trying to figure out who done it. This one's pretty simple. You're figuring out where is one card that I don't have. This game plays very differently, by the way. With 2 players, you have 3 characters that you're trying to figure out. You have to name all 3 of them. And I don't recommend it with 2. And with 3, it's kind of weird because you are always asking the same person the question. If you play 2 of the same card, you can reverse the flow and ask someone else a question. But other than that, you are constantly asking the same person a question. And it doesn't really work with 2 or 3. It's best with 4, I think. The game, the components, they're so cool looking, right? But they're a detriment. Now, the rules say you can take the ship apart and put the 3 decks on the board. You really have to do that. And that's unfortunate because the 3D ship thing sounds so cool. It's just kind of a problem when you're looking at the board and I'm sitting there going, ooh, I wonder, is someone in that room? Okay, now I'm going to ask a question. Really obvious what I just looked at. The question asking is interesting. I do like that aspect of it. Like, oh, I will ask a very specific question here about this, and using that information. It has the flaw of all these games where if someone answers incorrectly, they can mess things up, but that shouldn't be the case. And I like that concept. The cards are a little restrictive, but the one error in this game, I think, is that whole event card. If moving people around the ship is interesting because you want to move them into the right rooms, and you can say, so how many people do you have who are in the promenade? You know, you could ask that specific question, but moving someone to a room specifically to get a card is a clunky mechanism. You're sitting there going, okay, so I need to move someone into the promenade to get this card. All right, I'll move him there. Why did you do that? To get a card. And you have to do that to get cards. I would have just jettisoned that and give everyone a card draw every turn. What does it matter? You know, give everyone 5 cards to start with. You can spend 2 cards. They're good questions. And then as, you know, every time you use 2 cards, you get 1 less. So you can only do that a few times. That being said, I didn't dislike the game. I thought it was fun. I like deduction games. This is an easier one than most. Just trying to figure out what the right question is to ask, and then everyone else is listening, of course, too. So it has those restrictions. It's a good deduction game, hampered by a weird movement thing, that's event card thing, which is kind of weird. The 3D thing is more of a hindrance than it is a help, and it only really plays well with 4 players. So there's more cons, I think, than pros, but I still like it. I don't know. If you have a chance to play it, do it, but I would play it before I buy it for sure. Dice Tower Judgment, pretty, but a few flaws.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!